Welcome back to Old Charcoals, coin lovers and history seekers. Today, we're diving deep into one of Britain's iconic pre-decimal coins, the United Kingdom Two Shilling coin from 1966. This coin may seem like just a small piece of silver-colored metal, but it carries with it an incredible story of British history, economy, and tradition. We'll explore its history, design, value, and condition factors that every collector should know. So, stay tuned until the end, because you might be surprised to learn what your 1966 Two Shilling coin could be worth today. Before we talk about the coin's value, let's understand its place in British history. The Two Shilling coin, also known as the Florin, was first introduced in 1849 under Queen Victoria. It was designed as part of a move toward decimalization. Britain was still using the old pounds, shillings, and pence system at the time, where 1 pound was made up of 20 shillings, and each shilling was 12 pence. The florin represented 2 shillings, which meant it was worth 1/10 of a pound. That's why it was sometimes seen as an experiment in decimal currency, nearly 120 years before Britain officially switched to decimal money in 1971. By 1966, Britain was still on the pre-decimal system, and the coin featured the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. The 1966 issue is significant because it was minted during a time of economic change in Britain, just a few years before the country's currency was modernized. When you hold a 1966 Two Shilling coin, you're actually holding a part of the long journey toward the money system the UK uses today. Now let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse side, you'll find the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick. This youthful image of the Queen shows her wearing a laurel wreath, a classical symbol of victory and honor. This portrait was used on British coins from 1953 until 1967, so the 1966 issue still carries that iconic early Elizabethan look. On the reverse side, the coin features a Tudor rose in the center, surrounded by a thistle, a shamrock, and a leek, symbols representing England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Around the design, the inscription reads, "This design beautifully captured the unity of the United Kingdom under one crown." Now, let's talk about what collectors really want to know. The value. Since the 1966 Two Shilling coin was minted in large numbers, most of them are still considered common. They were struck in cupronickel, not silver, because silver had been removed from British circulating coins after 1946. That means they don't have intrinsic silver value, but their worth lies in their historical importance and collectability. Meaning coins that show wear and tear from everyday use. A 1966 Two Shilling coin is usually worth between £0.50 to £1 in the UK market, or around $1 to $2 USD internationally. Coins that were carefully preserved and show almost no wear, the value can rise to around £3 to £6, or $5 to $8 USD. For example, misstrikes, off-center coins, or coins with unusual lettering mistakes could fetch higher prices, sometimes £15 to £30 or more depending on demand. While most 1966 Two Shilling coins are not extremely rare, condition and uniqueness play a big role in determining their market price. When it comes to coin collecting, condition is king. The value of your 1966 Two Shilling depends heavily on how well it has survived over the decades. Collectors use a grading system that ranges from poor, heavily worn and almost unreadable, to brilliant uncirculated, BU, where the coin looks almost brand new. A coin in poor to fine condition might only be worth its face value or just slightly more. A coin in very fine, VF condition, where details are still visible but with moderate wear, can fetch a modest collector's price. A brilliant uncirculated, BU, coin, with sharp details, no scratches, and original mint luster, is the most sought after and can sell for a premium. If your 1966 Two Shilling has been well kept in a coin album or protective case, you may have a collectible piece worth more than you think. The 1966 Two Shilling coin also holds sentimental value. For many people, it brings back memories of Britain before decimalization in 1971. Older generations remember spending these coins in everyday life, for bus fares, groceries, or a pint at the pub. Collectors around the world still seek these coins to complete their pre-decimal sets. The florin's long history, starting from Queen Victoria's reign all the way to Queen Elizabeth II, makes it one of the most fascinating denominations in British numismatics. So, what do you think of the 1966 Two Shilling coin? While it may not make you instantly rich, it is a charming reminder of Britain's rich coinage history and the transition from old money to new. Its value might range from a simple keepsake worth £1 or £2, to a highly collectible piece if preserved in top condition. To truly appreciate the 1966 United Kingdom Two Shilling coin, we need to go back in time and trace the long history of the florin, because this denomination didn't just appear out of nowhere, it was the product of centuries of change in British money. The story begins in 1849, during the reign of Queen Victoria. Britain was a global empire, and conversations were already happening about the possibility of moving toward a decimal currency system. At that time, Britain used the complicated pounds, shillings, and pence system, where 12 pence equaled 1 shilling and 20 shillings equaled 1 pound. This meant there were 240 pence in 1 pound, a system that was practical for centuries but became increasingly outdated as trade expanded internationally. The florin, or 2 shilling piece, was introduced in 1849 as an experiment.
Why?
Because it represented 1/10 of a pound, a step toward decimalization. Other countries, like the United States, had already adopted decimal currency, where everything was based on units of 10. Britain wanted to test if the public could handle the same idea. The very first florin of 1849 was nicknamed the Godless Florin because it omitted the words Dei Gratia, or by the grace of God, from the Queen's title. This caused a scandal at the time, and later issues restored the religious phrase to the coinage. But the florin survived, and it continued to be minted for over 120 years, outliving even the shilling itself. Over time, the design of the florin changed with each monarch. Under Queen Victoria, it bore her portrait in various styles. Under Edward VII and George V, the design shifted but the denomination remained the same, 2 shillings. By George VI's reign, the florin was struck in cupronickel instead of silver. That change happened in 1947, when post-war Britain could no longer afford to mint everyday coins in real silver. From then on, 2 shilling coins were made of copper and nickel alloy, like the 1966 issue we're talking about today. Now, let's fast forward to 1966. Britain was going through major cultural and economic changes. The 1960s were a decade of modernization. Music, fashion, technology, and even the economy were being transformed. The government was already preparing for full decimalization, which would eventually come in 1971. But until then, the florin was still circulating alongside other pre-decimal coins. The 1966 2 shilling coin featured the young portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick, showing her with a laurel wreath. This portrait is especially loved by collectors because it represents the youthful, early years of her reign. On the reverse, the coin carried the national floral emblems, the rose of England, the thistle of Scotland, the shamrock of Ireland, and the leek of Wales, symbolizing the unity of the United Kingdom. Interestingly, the florin as a denomination survived even after decimalization. In 1971, when Britain officially switched to decimal currency, the 2 shilling coin was given a new value, 10 new pence. That means coins like the 1966 florin continued to circulate legally as 10p pieces until 1993, when the UK finally replaced them with a smaller modern 10p coin. So, if you had a 1966 2 shilling coin in your pocket during the 1980s, you could still spend it as 10p. This makes the 1966 2 shilling coin not just a relic of the past, but also a bridge between two eras of British money, the old pounds, shillings, and pence system, and the modern decimal system we know today. So, when you look at this coin, you're not just holding a piece of metal. You're holding a story that stretches from Queen Victoria's 19th century reforms, through 2 world wars, past the rise of Queen Elizabeth II, and into the modern age of money. When it comes to coin collecting, one of the most important factors that determines a coin's value is its condition. Collectors call this the grade of the coin, and the difference in value between a worn coin and one in pristine, untouched condition can be enormous. So let's break down what you need to know about the condition of the 1966 2 shilling coin. Most 1966 florins, or 2 shilling coins, were used in everyday life. People carried them in their pockets, paid for groceries, bus fares, or even a pint of beer with them. These coins show the marks of time, scratches from rubbing against other coins, smoothness where the Queen's portrait has worn down, and faded lettering around the edges. Coin in this type of heavily circulated condition may only be worth a small amount, often around its face value or just slightly above, because it's considered common. Collectors usually call this grade fine, F, or very good, VG, depending on how much detail remains visible. If a coin shows less wear, for example, the Queen's facial details are still sharp, the floral emblems on the reverse are clear, and the rim lettering is still readable, then it might fall into what collectors call very fine, VF, or extremely fine, EF, condition. Coins in this grade are more appealing to collectors because they still tell the story of their design, while having survived decades of handling without losing too much detail. These are often worth a bit more than face value, perhaps a pound or two in today's market. Now, here's where the magic really happens. A brilliant uncirculated, BU, 1966 2 shilling coin looks as though it just left the Royal Mint yesterday. These coins have sharp, crisp edges, no scratches, no loss of detail, and they often still have their original mint luster, that shiny reflective surface that comes from fresh striking. Collectors love these coins because they show exactly how the design was intended, with every detail of the Queen's portrait and the national floral emblems perfectly visible. Such coins are much harder to find, since most were spent in circulation. When found in this condition, their value can jump significantly compared to worn examples. There are also proof versions of some British coins, struck in limited numbers with highly polished dies and blanks to produce a mirror-like finish. Proof coins are made for collectors rather than circulation, and while not as common for the 1966 2 shilling, any special strike or proof example is far more desirable than a standard circulation piece. Another big factor in condition is how the coin has been treated over the years. Coins that have been left in damp environments may show corrosion or spotting. Others may have dark toning or discoloration, which can sometimes add character but often reduces collector value if it looks unnatural or unattractive. And here's a very important tip: never clean your coin. Many beginners make the mistake of scrubbing or polishing old coins to make them shiny. While this might make it look cleaner, it actually damages the coin's surface and destroys its collector value. Collectors prefer natural wear and patina because it tells the coin's authentic story. Professional grading companies and coin dealers often use standardized grading scales. In the UK, collectors often use terms like fine, F, very fine, VF, extremely fine, EF, and brilliant uncirculated, BU. In the United States, there's the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1, barely identifiable, to 70, a perfect coin. On this scale, a 1966 2 shilling in good, G4, condition might just have its main design features visible but very worn down. In fine, F12, condition, details like the Queen's hair and the floral emblems start to show better clarity. In extremely fine, EF40, condition, the coin would have minimal wear, with almost all design features intact. At the top, a mint state, MS60 to MS70, coin would look brand new, with no signs of circulation. Condition is the difference between a coin being worth a small amount as a common collectible or being worth several times more as a pristine collector's item. For the 1966 2 shilling coin, the majority are still easy to find in circulated grades, but finding one in brilliant uncirculated condition with full mint luster is much harder, and that's where collectors are willing to pay more. So, when checking your 1966 2 shilling, look closely. Are the details of the Queen's portrait sharp? Is the rim intact? Do the floral emblems stand out clearly? Does the coin still shine with its original mint finish? These small details can make a big difference in how much your coin is worth today.